Hello out there to my Facebook friends, clients, and the like, and all of my viewers and all of my followers. I'm Jonathan Bengal here, and apparently I have kind of messed up my backdrop, I just realized. But it turns out that I've been kind of like struggling with getting the stuff online. So it actually happens, right? So for those of you who are doing live shows, those of you that are perfectionists out there, this could drive you nuts that the things you think are working are not quite working. But you know what? I know something about myself, and that is I just go, go, go. So if you're tuning in, my name's Jonathan Bengal. I am the host of my show, Naked Tax Talk, where we come together and we just get down to the naked truth about our lives by developing our personal self, our businesses, and of course, our tax lives. Just so we're clear, I'm coming up naked, babies, because this is one way in which we develop courage so that others can also see it and truly see the vulnerability that each and every one of us takes as human beings. So I also want, before I go on, I also want to share the fact that June 30th is coming up. This is when my book is going to be launched, The ABCs of Deductions. And I'm super duper excited because I know that the moment that you start reading this book, especially if you're a sole proprietor or if you are a single member LLC, especially those two things, you're just starting out in business, you're just starting to figure things out. I want to let you know that this book is going to help you literally add money into your pocket overnight, even if it feels bad. And sometimes I get asked the question, how much? And it's 15.3%. But that's a whole other complicated conversation, perhaps for another time. I also want to remind my amazing viewers that this is an interactive interview, meaning that if you happen to leave some comments and it fits in the flow with what I'm saying or whatever else the case may be, I have no problem interacting with you live. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit. There we go. My logo is kind of out on the side over here, but that's okay. We'll showcase my other logo for JB Financial, my other company. Also, just before we get going, yes, I am still wearing my heart monitor because, of course, the duoctas, they want to make sure that it's not my heart that's going to explode. So probably from just overexcitement because I love what I do. Anyways, so with that in mind, without further ado, as they say, by the way, that's my new phrase, as they say. I want to start this conversation by simply asking a question. And that is how many times in our life can we remember where we have said no? It could be no to, I don't want to do my homework. It could be, no, I don't want to go to sleep at 8 o'clock. It could be, no, I don't want to continue on with this relationship. It could be, no, I'm not willing to pay that price. It could be, no, I'm not willing to take you on as a client. So, no, N-O. And I was talking to my friend the other day, Linda Gentle. So, Linda, if you're listening or tuning in, shout out to you. We were talking the other day. And I shared with her that we hear the word yes all the time, right? We're always told, say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. And I agree with that, actually. If we turn around and we're always saying no, we could very well be doing ourselves a disservice in a way. But perhaps maybe another powerful word, no, means no. What no ultimately means is the ability to self-preserve for the self, to be able to say, I don't think I really want to engage in that. Or better yet, I will not engage in that because we're watching out for ourselves. You see, we're always told all the time, right? We should be watching out for other people, right? Other people. And yes, that is important. That is part of our human condition. That's part of our human purpose in life. And I'm sure Linda would agree. Hi, Linda. So, right, this is what we're brought here to do, is to care for others. But if we do not care for ourselves first, then we can't really care for other people now, can we? Especially if we're driven to really support others and to help them to rise up through it all and to have their back the whole time. But we must be strong too. We must have the confidence that we can deliver, that we can take them to the next level, right? This is what we have to have. And so sometimes we have to say no. Maybe no because it's not the moment, it's not the right time, it's not the right conditions. Maybe it's no because what you're being faced with is going against your beliefs. It's going against everything that your heart and your soul and your gut is telling you that maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And if I may for a moment tie this back to business, especially for entrepreneurs like me, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm managing 3 companies right now. And in business, we all know that our function is to raise revenue, right? To go out there and to bring in and provide a service and to get compensated for the services that we provide, either the service or the widget, right? The product. In the case where if a client says to you, I'm not willing to pay you your value, I'm not willing to pay you for what you're worth, but I still want all of the cookies and I still want the cake and I still want the Mercedes and I still want, I want, I want, I want. If we don't step into our power and stand firm and say no, then what can happen is that the buyer basically goes, fantastic. I just have a deal, which is fine for them, right? But now it's a one-sided deal. One-sided is, and they win. Because what you're facing with as the business owner is this thing called resistance, right? Resentment that's kind of rising because it's like, you know, I know my value. I know my worth. I know that what I'm going to do is going to be top knowledge, top quality product, top everything, top notch, like boom, 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 right? Like, I know I'm not just your ordinary Joe Schmo tax preparer, let's just say, right? Like, I'm a badass tax consultant. That's what I am, right? So we're like, I know our value. I know where I sit, right? And so my phone just buzzed. I just got distracted. So now we are in our value. Now, when a client comes back or a potential client goes, I want all of that, but I'm not going to pay you what you're worth. Now is the time in which we have to really, truly think about, do we really want this relationship with this person? This is now where the power of no steps in. Because what you're doing is you're protecting your value as a business owner, as someone out there who is truly constantly trying to make a buck, right? The moment we say no, we are standing in our firm, we're standing in our truth. And here's another thing that happens before we get to the word no, right? We sometimes have to evaluate. If I accept this offer of getting paid less but provide all the same stuff, what does that mean? Well, I can tell you from personal experience what it means. You know, when you give a proposal for a client and there's value there is value behind what we do as certified tax coaches and certified tax planners. The value that we bring is measured in dollars. It's measured in savings. It's measured by the amount of money that you as a business owner get to keep in your business, that you add to capital, that you get to take and use it for the things you want to, whether it's to fulfill your dream, like to hire your own director of operations, or if it's for other things that you would rather do with. Maybe it's personal. Maybe you want to finally take that vacation to the Bahamas and not make it business related, right? So we bring value there. What happens is we propose a price point and we say, this is what we are worth, right? That's what we're telling the client. Every time that you say to a client, here's the price to do business with me, right? What you're really doing is you're really saying to them, here's my value. Here's what I believe I'm worth right here for you to look at. And if the client comes back and they negotiate, which is nothing wrong with that per se, but if they negotiate and there is no win on the other side for you, the entrepreneur, and you say yes, you instantly lose all respect, as in they lose all respect for you. They may not say it. They may not be overt about it, but their actions will speak way louder than their words will. They immediately devalue your worth. They immediately put you into a bucket that they want you to be in. You know, for example, if you happen to be an accountant right now and you are going, you know what, I want out of the rut. I'm tired of working January through April 15th, Monday through Monday, and only getting paid $100 a tax return. And I still can't seem how to make rent. I still can't hire that director. I still can't how to I still don't have the money to advertise, right? We as accountants or as entrepreneurs, we are constantly trying to improve our businesses, our services, right? We're trying to improve ourselves so that we can offer more, so we can support more, right? And so we began this journey of what we call rebranding ourselves. We began to go, I'm going to tell a different story. We hear this all the time from our inspirational coaches, right? Don't let that be your story, right? But really what it is we're saying, I no longer want to be pigeonholed into a particular function. I no longer want to be seen as just in my case, a tax preparer or a bookkeeper. And there's nothing wrong with that because believe it or not, those two functions in the industry of accounting are probably one of the most valuable assets that you can invest in as a business owner. Because the bookkeepers are making sure that your records, which by the way, the IRS wants to have, they come knocking on your door. They make sure that your records are right there, ready to rock and roll. And they're building the numbers because those numbers are going to tell a story. And those stories are going to be told to the tax preparer who's going to make sure that your ass is in compliance, right? As the consumer, we're making sure you are in compliance. So again, if Uncle Sam comes knocking on the door, you're going to be able to say, here's my tax return. And with confidence, you're going to be able to fight back. Because believe it or not, as a tax preparer, you have something called the Bill of Rights as a tax preparer, as a taxpayer. You have rights. And as long as your ducks are in a row, babies, you have the opportunity to fight back. So bookkeepers are amazing because they need to track that data. Because let's be real, if we're serial entrepreneurs, we don't have time to worry about the minutiae. The only thing we're going to do is create. We're going to be like my friend Iman says, we are the fire creators. We create fires so that others around us can maintain it or put them out, right? We don't have time to worry about the books. So we need bookkeepers. They're very valuable in what we do in our business cycle. Tax preparers, again, are helping us with being compliant. And that's honestly where I was too, fulfilling those functions when I first started this now 18 years ago. Doing the bookkeeping, doing the tax preparation. And over time, people began to see you as just that. And how many of us have been pigeonholed into things that we don't want to be? You know, on a personal level, people always pigeoned me into essentially like, you're supposed to be the straight boy, right? You're a little femme, but you're like a straight boy, right? They pigeonhole you into that. Or they say, oh, you come from a Latin background, so you must always eat chili. Like, I'm surprised that your stomach can't handle chili, but you're a Mexican, right? Being pigeonholed into what we do. And we're trying to break out of that, right? We try to redefine who we are. And in business, this is what we do, right? We're redefining who we are. And so now we're struggling still. And so now what we do is we say, I've had enough and I want to like a reboot. I want to restart who I am. And so we began to change our messaging, right? Away from I do bookkeeping, away from I prepare tax returns, away from I cook in the back as a chef cook, right? Maybe you want to be the chef that designs the meals, right? But people see you as the cook in the background doing all the work. And this is kind of ironic because the people on the back doing all the support are actually very, very, very valuable. So I apologize, Linda. I don't know how that happened. I hope that everything's okay. You said it got kicked you out, I think. I hope not. Find me on YouTube right now. Find me on my Facebook page, on my personal page, Naked Tax Talk Facebook page, and my Women's Just Because Facebook page if you've lost connection. So needless to say, we began this process now of rebranding ourselves and saying, I'm beyond that, right? I'm beyond that. I'm now higher value. I now take a 5,000 approach to your tax life. And I share with you the opportunities that are right in front of you if you're willing to invest in my value. But here's the thing. As the consumer, you're not investing in me per se. You're literally investing in yourself and in your company. Because here's the thing, as taxpayers, especially as entrepreneurs, sole proprietors, single member LLCs, hell, even corporations, the smaller ones and the S Corps and stuff, they will spend their waking lives worrying about the tax bill. They will spend their waking lives worrying about how in the world am I going to pay and move beyond this. But what we need to know is that we do that through strategic tax planning, right? So anyways, as I was saying, with the business owner, we are trying to break out of the mold. And that's actually really difficult to do. And this is where the power of no starts to have its impact. Because when you give your proposition of what it is that you're worth, your value, and the potential client essentially is going, I'm not interested. I don't want to do this, right? They lowball you essentially, or they counter offer, right? But still demand everything, right? What essentially we're doing is we're having to stay firm in our belief in ourself that we are valuable, that we are worth it. And so that's the power of no, because you're going to be able to come back and say, I stand firm in what I deliver. Today I spoke with a couple of attorneys. One is Jacob Wild, who is a tax attorney and works with me on the side. There's a lot of my in-house counsel work. I worked with another counsel, Chevelle McPherson, also another council member. And these attorneys, I talked to them and they gave me 2 point of views. Do this, offer them a lower price, offer them less things. I guess I could do that. Absolutely. My other attorney said, well, actually continue to give them the full value, give them the full enchilada, but put conditions on it. It still makes it fair in both cases, in both scenarios. Neither one of them, in fact, both of them are right. But then it boils down to the person in the center, that's moi, having to make a decision and having to realize and having to come up with the confidence to be able to stand in my power and to say no. I refuse to be valued less than who I am. In last week's episode, I talked about confidence and how that impacts our value. The more confidence that we have that we can deliver on what we say we can deliver impacts our value. So for me to take less than my value now would be the same as devaluing who I am. In many ways, it would be like destroying all the hard work that I've been working on for the past year. In essence, it would be like removing all of the things that I've been working on for the past 10 years. That's the reality. We as business owners were so afraid, many of us were so afraid to stand in our power and to say no. I'm sorry, but I can't do it for that price. I'm sorry, I can't give you a here to the moon launch for that price. And I cannot help but to think there's this underlying current that comes up. And it's this fear. And it's like right here, it's imaginary, like a little F right here. And it's nagging. And it's like, you're not going to get any more clients. You got to take the money. You need the money. You better take the money. Go ahead, do it. Just offer him everything. But just go ahead and take it. Take it. You're not going to get more people. Take it. That's fear. That's what fear does. And so if we give into the fear, we've undone everything who we are. We've undone it all. And then we're back to ground one all over again, having to rebuild ourselves of who we are, having to step back into that confidence to be able to say no. It's interesting because the power of no also translates into our tax lives too. When we wake up and we decide, I've had enough of paying taxes. I'm done, right? There's a good way to do it and there's a bad way to do it. Always 2 choices, right? The good way to do it, let's talk about the bad way to do it. The bad way to do it is to say I refuse to pay any more in taxes, and so I stop filing tax returns, I stop disclosing the income, I stop it all. Let them come knock on my door. Oh, and by the way, when they do, you're going to need someone like me, an IRS enrolled agent, who has the power to now become you and represent you so that you get out of hot water. I'm not advising that, by the way. I would never advise that. But that's what happens if we decide to go down that road, right? And so then Uncle Sam gets really pissed. And then he's like, I'm going to garnish your checks. I'm going to garnish your bank accounts. Oh, and by the way, for the people who think that the government doesn't know our account information, have I got news for you? Didn't we all get a stimulus check? And then number two, have I got news for you? That when you choose not to pay your tax bills and they've done everything in their power to try to communicate with you and collect the moo-moo, they will go and suck whatever they got to suck on to get the money out. So, for example, I remember a story of a woman that I knew years and years and years ago, and believed that the IRS couldn't attack her joint account with her daughter. It's my daughter's account, it's not mine. And one day she called me up and she said, my daughter's account's been drained, $100,000. Told ya, they have your information. That's how they work. Now, I digress. So there's the negative way, right? I can just say, screw it all and just, right? Or I can go the other route and I could say, I've had enough paying in taxes, and now I want to find out how to stop paying taxes legally. Because the thing about it is as an entrepreneur, the IRS wants us to spend money. It wants us to what we call invest into not only ourselves, which is a byproduct, but it wants us to invest in our companies. And as a result, we pay less taxes. So sometimes we just have to say, no, I refuse to pay anymore. I refuse to be ignorant in the sense that I refuse to no longer not know what I don't know when it comes to taxes. And so how do we get there? How do we start to change that? Well, we begin to go, let me inquire. Let me talk to certified tax coaches. Let me talk to certified tax planners. Let me talk to IRS enrolled agents or CPAs that specialize in tax. And let me pay for a consultation so they can share some of this information to begin to move me forward. Or you can join my launch team. You like this? You can join my launch team and text under the cover, all one word, to 555-888 and begin to get the building blocks so that you can say no to overpayment in taxes. Because you see, once you say no, I refuse to pay more in taxes legally, what that translates into is more money in your pocket. It means more capital that you can work with. That's what that means. And thank you so much, Mika. You're absolutely correct. Value equals consistent flow. And that's right. And part of that power comes from us constantly being mindful, because once we become aware, that removes ignorance. Now we're aware. Now we have human choice. Now we have a choice. We can go left, we could go right. Well, not quite, now that I realized it. The other left, the other right. So we have these choices we can take, right? And now what has to happen is we have to use the mind of effort, meaning I got to actually put some movement into it. I have to concentrate single-pointedly, right? I'm constantly on that focal point. And then, of course, I'm going to always be mindful about what's happening. And that's why, for example, when I will be the first to admit that I, in fact, can get triggered. I think we all can. I think we've all been there. And when we work on ourselves, especially as business owners, when we work on our businesses, we're constantly having to utilize self-awareness. Because there comes a time when you have to say, no. No, I refuse to. And when we say no, we're guarding who we are. We're guarding the new us, the new self. And if I may say that the new self that we feel in this moment will not be the self that we experience in 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a day, 100 years. It will be completely different. So part of the objective is to be in touch with self in the present moment. And sometimes in the present moment, we have to check and go, does that, what is unfolding before me, is that in alignment with my values? Is that in an alignment with who I am as a person? And if it's not, then we turn to the power of no. No, I refuse to go further. No, I refuse to be devalued for what I offer. No. I refuse to work 20 hours but get paid $2. I refuse to be seen as something that I am not. And to have the courage to stand up and to say no. And I will tell you, I'll be the first. It takes a lot of energy to say no. And if you're someone like me, who I so badly, and I mean this in a good way, I suppose, I attach myself to the friendships, to the acquaintances, to the conversations, to all of that. And the mere notion of going, no, I can't provide the service at the price you're proposing. There's a part of me that's also afraid that I'm going to lose the friendship. I'm going to lose the acquaintanceship. I'm going to lose. And I know because it creeps up, right? Part of our human experience is that none of this is actually ever fixed, I don't think, until we reach true, what we would say, liberation. But until then, is a constant reminder. Don't be afraid, JB. Don't be afraid, my fellow entrepreneurs, to say no. Because there's also something that I learned about the power of no. And that is when I'm willing to say no, the universe is always ready to give something else. The universe is always ready for you. And sometimes we have to be so mindful that we connect the dots as they're unfolding between us, or in front of us, I should say. Because perhaps what universe is always trying to tell us, it's not blatant. It's not like, here's the damn book. Although I guess sometimes that can happen, like my book, The ABCs of Deductions. But anyways, so sometimes universe just kicks in and goes, subtly, I'm presenting you with something here, JB. Let's just see if you've learned the lesson. Because, I told my brother, my amazing brother, I told him about a week ago. And we were talking and stuff. And I shared with him and I said, bro, I call him bro. I'm like, bro, what I've learned is that we progress in this life. We get better in this life when we are always asking the question, what was the lesson I was supposed to learn? When things happen, what was I supposed to learn from all of this? Because if there's anything I know, there's a lot of consistency in this life too, besides inconsistency, but there's a lot of consistency. And in the world of sales, we've heard this. As a matter of fact, in the world of sales, we've heard that consistency can be defined in 4 quadrants, depending on who you talk to, which coach you're engaging with. But they all seem to have the same 4 quadrants. So at least we know there's some consistency there, maybe some minor variances, but there's some consistencies. In fact, I will admit and tell you that if you wanted to find out what tax personality type you are, babies, you gotta meet SensorBot. He's my virtual employee. And how do you meet him? Text the word "Let's Get Naked," all one word, 2555888. You'll meet SensorBot, right? You meet SensorBot, and he will invite you into our virtual spa, where he's going to then ask you some series of questions as it relates to your spa experience, which are really tax questions, simple, by the way. And at the end, he's going to offer you a bathrobe. And he's going to say to you, oh, you like to show up naked, like me. Oh, you like to bring your own bathrobe to the party. Oh, you like to bring a big fluffy bathrobe. Or you like to use your own utility bathrobe. There's some consistency there. In sales, there's some consistency there. There are typically 4 types of people that have a particular buying methodology. This is what I know about consistency. So with that being said, I'm able to develop a degree of confidence. Because when I say no, I refuse to be devalued. No, I am worth everything that I say I am worth, and I will deliver everything I will say I deliver because I have the confidence. Then I also know that because of consistency, that if you say, okay, fine, I'm out, then in the back here is someone else that's coming to the front and saying, I want to be part of your world. I value you. It's kind of like relationships too, I mean, let's be real, personal development, right? It's kind of like personal development too. It's kind of like our personal lives. right? Well, sometimes we can get trapped into the desperation to stay with someone, right? Guilty as charged, and as far as that's concerned, to stay with the same person because of the fear that if we break up, I won't have somebody else to come into my life. That's what happens. And so we attach ourselves. Don't leave us. Don't leave me. You can abuse me. You can emotionally abuse me. You can physically abuse me. You can mentally abuse me. That's what we do because we're afraid that there's no other option. And in business, that happens too. It's okay. You can make demands of me that are not very good demands. It's okay. You can skip a month and not pay me, and I'll still do the work for you for free. It's okay. You can pretend like I never sent you the bill and I still work for free. That's abuse. It's abuse. And so it's not until we stand up and say, no, I will no longer be abused. It keeps going. And how do we get to that no? Like I said earlier, it's knowing that we're developing the confidence to know that there is some consistency in this life. And that is, there's always going to be somebody there who will come to the front of the line and be like, ooh, damn, girl. Or like, damn, dude, what's up? You're hot. There's always somebody. I know so. I'm a good looking dude. I know. Not to be conceited. Better yet, I own it. Because that's the honest truth. That's what happens. Next person. Next. But of course, because we so badly want to maintain that relationship, we're so attached to what's happening, we go into turmoil, we go crazy. And that happens in business too. We go crazy. We maintain the relationship undervalued, over delivering, so to speak, right? Allowing that to go on, or before the relationship even starts. Thank you, Jacob. That's right. I am telling him, God damn it. So the truth of the matter is, yes, we have to stand in our power. Plain and simple. And that is part of it, is saying no. And I don't want to kind of like go into too much, because tomorrow I'm bringing on Michelle Weinstein. So Michelle, if you're watching this episode, shout out to you. She's going to come on here and we're going to talk about what she coins her red rope policy. And when I became a student of hers, I learned about the red rope policy. And that is what's going to help me. That's what ended up helping me to begin to step into my power and to say no. And yes, Mika, universe is always expanding. Scarcity is limited. Believing in undervalued, exactly. And expansion is value. Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. In fact, we don't have to look very far, right? You just got to look to the heavens and hear and see, what scientists tell us and astronauts tell us, right? That the universe is ever expanding. You're absolutely right. And I think part of what that is that scarcity kicks in, because again, we're like, if they say no, if I say no, motherfucker, I am worth it. There's going to be nobody there. But here's how universe always sends us subtle signs. When one person says, you're too expensive, or one person says, I'll give you less than, but I still want all of it, right? What universe is always showing you is the next day, there are people knocking on your door saying, how do I come in and be part of your world? All we just got to do is tune into that. I make it sound so simple, right? All we have to do is just tune in. But the truth is all we must do, all one does, is recognize that when there's someone else in that pipeline knocking in that door, that's another opportunity. Because here's something else I've learned. In this lifetime, we all have nothing to lose. We only have everything to gain. Everything to gain. Ultimate true happiness is all that we have to gain. We don't lose anything. And what I mean by that is that in the chasing of ultimate happiness, meaning that's all that we have to gain, is this. Are you ready? I personally believe that there's one thing that I know, and I'm sure many of my entrepreneurs and all my viewers out there would agree. The one thing that we all want is more time. Every single person in this world is equalized by time. 24 hours. Everyone is equalized by 24, including the animals and the insects. Everything around us in this environment of who we are is limited by 24 hours. That's what makes us all equal. And so now we're going to chase more time. Why? Because let's be real. There are things in this life that we have to do because, like, for example, there might be things like you have to go to work in order to make a living. I mean, I guess you don't have to. But if you technically want the lifestyle that you want, you've got to put forth the effort, which means I got to put forth the time. Now, there's two avenues here, and I know so personally that you can handle, right? One decision is I can go put a lot of time and not charge my value. And personally, it takes a while to get there. Or I can put in time and also charge my value. Because, see, here's the thing, right? If I raise my value, I'm also raising my time. I'm getting back my time to do the things I really want to do. That's the ultimate truth. That's all we want is more time. More time to spend with our families, more time to spend in our businesses, more time to spend with colleagues, more time to live. And we cannot do that if we are in constant shortage, if we're in constant lack, scarcity, as Mika says. Beautiful. Told there's 7 days in a week and a 2-day weekend. That makes 9 days. I'm still looking for the extra 2 days. That's funny. Because Jacob, here's the thing. You got to make your own days in a way, right? Like, here's something interesting about this comment right here. Raher. We as entrepreneurs, the power of no is the ability to say, I refuse to work past extra time in the day. I refuse to work on certain days of the week. I refuse to be on your beck and call when I want to take time off, because here's what entrepreneurs do, right? This is what we do. We become the business owner, right? We take on all the hats, right? We become all of it. And next thing you know it, we're back and call, right? Because again, we're looking for the client to support them and to keep that relationship going, right? And so we are just constant on call, boom, 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 right? If we do not set up those limits and say no, you go crazy, plain and simple. Like, it's too much. So in a way, we can stand in our power and say, I refuse to work beyond what I believe I should work. And in this sense, practice contentment in the sense that, like, okay, if I don't put in an extra weekend, what could that mean? Right? Because part of the reason why we tend to overwork, by the way, is that we could very well be driven primarily by money, right? In the sense that I need to make more money, right? Because the idea here is if I make more money, I will have more time to do the things that I want to do, which is in essence true. But you can also still have a lot of time on your hands and still not have to go out there and keep chasing money. Better yet, let's rephrase it and say that if we're strategic about how we go about making money, that's even more important versus like shooting in the dark and then just hoping that something will come to you. So that's food for thought. Today I was in a networking group and we were talking about guilt and shame, of course. And I said to the one person, allow yourself to be, right? They were talking about video games, which is great because I'm a video gamer. That's the honest truth. And I too myself had faced that a few weeks ago. Like legit, I was like I was beating myself up in a way, right? Jonathan, you got to be working today. You have stuff to do. You should be working today. And instead, I was like playing video games because that's one way I deal with my stress, right? We all have stress relievers. That's one way I deal with my stress. It's one way that I get out of this universe. I go into a virtual one and I play video games, right? And I got to the point where that negative talk started creeping up. And again, I've worked so hard to really counteract the effects of negative talk. And so quickly I jumped to the mirror because that's where you meet your soul. And I allowed myself to have a conversation with myself, which is my soul. And my soul said to me, Jonathan, it's okay. Allow yourself to take the whole day and play a video game. Because keep this in mind. If you died tomorrow, what would happen with those clients and all that you're taking care of? Simple. It just keeps going. They'd find another accountant. They'd find another whatever, right? That's the truth. Think about that for a moment. If you died, what would happen? Bluntly, you're dead. So in a way, we have to kind of like come back to, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to allow myself to play video games. I'm going to allow myself to do XYZ. I'm going to allow myself to have a day off. And I'm going to say no to forcing myself to work hours I don't want to work. I'm going to say no to the people who demand that I work on a schedule that they want. You're the CEOs of your company. You are not an employee of someone else, people. If you are an independent contractor, you are independent. You are not beholden to anybody as an independent contractor. And because of that, the IRS says deduct and write off to your heart's content. Limitations do apply. But that's the whole point. It's the reverse. If I was an employee, I would be at the beck and call of my boss. My employer could say, you got to be here from 9 to 9. You got to answer the phones on the weekends. You got to respond to emails within 2 minutes, right? They could make those demands, crazy as it is. In theory, they could. But we're not. We're business owners. We hold our own forts. So we get to determine. Isn't that why we became business owners? Because we wanted to create our own rules. So why not create them and make them you? Make them fit into who you are. If you want to spend more time with family, do it. If you want to spend time playing video games, do it. Right? Which I guess brings us back to balance. Because as the Buddha says, that it's about living in the moment. And that we can, in fact, find ourselves going to the extremes. And that's important, right? To recognize if we're heading into an extreme. But to bring it back into balance. To bring it back to the moment. To this instant. And I say that moment is when you're listening to someone talking, or you're hanging around with your friends or your family, or you're playing video games, or whatever else, the things that you like to do. And for a split second, you're not worried about anything in your life. You're not worried about the next 5 seconds. And you're not worried about what happened 5 seconds ago. It's about being in the moment and being centered. So with that, I will close up by saying that at the end of the day, being able to say no is just as powerful as saying yes. It creates the ultimate boundary. It creates the ultimate value of who we are. And if we don't catch ourselves before we cross that line and take something that's less than for who we are, it can and does unravel everything. So, if you liked my show, you'd like to be a guest on my show, let's get naked at nakedtaxtalk.com. Send me an email. Let's get naked at nakedtaxtalk.com. If you would like to get onto my lunch team and get access to my book, The ABCs of Deductions, and add more money into your pocket, even though it might feel wrong, to the tune of 15.3%, then text under the cover to 555-888. And last but not least, if you're watching this and you've not subscribed, I'm asking you, please hit the subscribe button, hit the alert button, and catch me on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. where I talk like this very openly. And on Thursdays at 6 o'clock, I try to bring on guests that add extra value. And like I said, tomorrow is Michelle Weinstein. She is the founder of The Abundant Accountant and also the Pitch Queen. And this woman taught me a lot. And I cannot wait for you guys to benefit from the things that she's going to say tomorrow. So until then, may you all have an amazing night, an amazing morning, or whenever you're watching this episode. Thank you so much for every one of you that watched live and participated. I really appreciate the feedback. I appreciate everything that we do. And with that, may you all have an amazing evening, morning, or day. Boom, 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 boom.